What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a 2025 NFL mock draft, and I really want to get right into it. First thing, I want to say something. This is the hardest draft that I've ever seen, to predict. Last year was kind of a general consensus of how the first few picks were going to go, and then after that, it was still a little bit of a guessing game. But we still had a rough idea of the top big time first round guys were. This year, I mean, it kind of feels like once you get away from the top 10 and maybe even like the top 4 or 5, there's really not a set in stone first round group of guys. Really, from 15 to 60, I think that those guys vary on NFL teams' draft boards more than they ever have in any other drafts. And I just think that, look, after the first 3 picks, this draft just kind of goes into a complete guessing game. And that's why you have all these different mocks that have certain players going different places that you really haven't seen any other times. Like most of the time, at least the top 5 is pretty solidified. But even this year, it's almost impossible to predict. Even picks 2 and 3 can fluctuate, depending on if Shedeur Sanders goes to the Giants. That can just shake the entirety of the rest of the first round. It can just really shake things up. And there's going to be a lot of disparity among a lot of the other mock drafts, but this one's going to be a little different, like they all are. And that's really all I wanted to say. I might get one pick correct because after the first pick, there really isn't a guarantee. I feel like it's trending more and more to a top 3 picks that we can really hone in on and lock in for this draft. But yeah, without further ado, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. With the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans are going to select Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami, Florida. This is the general consensus right now, and like I said, this might be the only pick that's locked in for the draft. Brian Callahan, new head coach last year, comes in with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. None of those 2 quarterbacks are his guys, all right? It's a terrible season. He ends up going between both of the quarterbacks, and they really have no success in Tennessee. And they blame it a lot on Brian Callahan, but he doesn't have his guy. Cam Ward could be his guy. They said they weren't going to pass up on a generational talent. They might view Cam Ward as generational quarterback talent, and that's great. That's what they need to view him as if they want to have the confidence in this guy. If you don't have confidence in your rookie quarterbacks, you're really just going to let them dwindle away. I mean, look at a Bryce Young. Do you think that Carolina had confidence in him after his first few games? No. They completely took it away from him, and it only took benching him for them to regain their confidence in him. Cam Ward is somebody that the Titans organization needs to be following through with and really pound in there because this guy's got the talent. He's got the stuff that you can't teach. He's got arm talent. He's got a great feel for the game. He can improvise like none other, but he does hold on to the ball a little bit too long sometimes. That's something that you can teach and help him get better at as time goes forward. You see those problems with Caleb Williams a lot. I'm not saying Cam Ward's Caleb Williams, but I'm saying that those are things that you can coach up out of their game, and it might not show year 1, but as year 2, 3, 4 goes forward, this is what you want out of Cam Ward, your future franchise quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Now, pick number 2. Cleveland has a couple of options here. They can go Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, the 2 consensus top players on the board. If they want quarterback, maybe they go Shedeur. I think that they're going to go with Travis Hunter, a cornerback or wide receiver out of Colorado. Now, he's a unicorn. Travis Hunter is a player like none other, and that's why we call him a unicorn. Really, he's the best wide receiver and corner in this draft. I think Cleveland should probably use him as a wide receiver, but there's so many holes to fill on this team that if he wants to play both, which, I mean, I don't know if it's really possible for him to play both positions every single snap in the NFL. I think his best career route is to be a full-time receiver or corner and then just play part-time snaps. Maybe he comes in on big-time third downs for whichever other side he doesn't play as much. But either way, this is a great pick for Travis Hunter, and he is the best player in this draft, in my opinion. So a great pick at number 2 for Cleveland here. And that brings up the Giants at 3rd, and they're really going to have their cream of the crop here. They have the 2 players on their board I think that they're going to consider here are Shedeur Sanders and Abdul Carter. I really think that they're going to go with the more talented one of the 2, being Abdul Carter. You just signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston to deals. You're going to have those 2 guys in-house. Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are both on their last legs in this Giants organization. They need to win games now. They can't rely on a rookie quarterback to win games. They want veterans to help them win games. And also, you're bringing a difference maker like Abdul Carter into the mix. That's going to help you win games a lot more. Abdul Carter is his first year as a full-time edge rusher this season, and he absolutely killed it. He was incredible, and he's only getting better. That's the scary thing about him. He started the season off slow, and as the season went forward, even fighting through a shoulder injury, he just kept getting more and more productive throughout the games. He is an elite edge prospect and a great pick here for the Giants at 3. And that brings up the Patriots at 4. And there's a lot of different ways that this can happen. And this is where I think that the real draft starts. So the Patriots at 4, there's a lot of different ways they can go. I think there's going to be O-line. You got to protect Drake May, but who's it going to be? I think it's going to be Armand Membou out of Missouri. Now this might seem as a shock to you guys, but I understand. Armand Membou may not be the offensive line one, but the reason why they're picking Membou is because he has the intangibles that an offensive tackle has, right? You have a guy like Will Campbell who comes into the combine and measures with shorter arms. He might not project to the Patriots as a tackle, which pushes his value down the board. Armand Membou might be OT1 in their eyes. He's still a great tackle. He tested really well, not quite as well as Will Campbell did, but he still tested incredibly well for an offensive lineman. This is how you protect Drake May. You have your franchise quarterback. You have to treat him right. Whether this is Armand Membou, Will Campbell, this has to be a good pick for the Patriots, and it has to be to help out Drake May. You have to move forward with your Mike Vrabel, and building in the trenches is a great way to do that, and you're also helping your young quarterback and Drake May develop, getting him protection that he ever so very right needs. That brings up Jacksonville at 5, and now there's a lot of consensus here that Mason Graham could be the pick. I don't know if that's really going to go. He might not have quite the ceiling that a top 5 pick would have, in my opinion. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go with a blue chip player like Ashton Genty. Now you might think, oh, they have Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. That's the thing. Etienne's in the last year of his deal. Bigsby might not be the world's best running back. You bring in a player like Ashton Genty, this is going to elevate your offense to the next level. This also makes Travis Etienne a top-tier trade target in the last year of his deal. Maybe they pawn him off for a 7th-round pick, 6th-round pick. He could just be a camp casualty, really, by the end of training camp. Either way, you don't care about him anymore. He's not your long-term plans. This beast is. Ashton Genty is the premier player that is available right now, in my easy and honest opinion. Like, he is the top running back prospect in this draft class, and it's not close. Mr. Contact Balance himself. You want to watch somebody make football look like it's easy? Ashton Genty does that. He does not go down. He does not get tackled. He is a beast, and this is a great pick at unpicked 5 here. It's going to really help produce the offense, and like, you got to remember this thing. Liam Cohen and James Gladstone, both first-year organization guys, they didn't pick Tank Bigsby. They didn't draft Etienne. Those aren't their guys. They're going and getting their guy for their offense. And this is who Ashton Genty is at 5 for the Jaguars. This brings up the Raiders at 6. And now with Will Campbell still on the board, I think Pete Carroll really wants to build in the trenches. With Ashton Genty gone, I think he's the number 1 player on their board. This is going to be a pretty chalk pick here. It's going to be Will Campbell. Either a guard or tackle, however they view him, doesn't matter. He's going to be a beast wherever you put him on the line. You got to get a good offensive line established, and it's a Pete Carroll squad. He loves to build to the trenches. He loves to establish the run, and Will Campbell's a great player. He tested super well at the combine, may not project as a tackle at the next level, which might drop his value a little bit. I still think he's the best offensive lineman in the draft class. He might just not be the best offensive tackle prospect due to his shorter arms, but this is still a great pick here at 6 for the Raiders. Now this brings up pick 7 to the Jets. Now this is really where things get interesting, because the Jets are probably hoping for either Will Campbell or Armand Membou to fall to them, but they don't. There's a couple of ways they can go here. Maybe they want to go for a Tyler Warren. Maybe they want to go for a Shedeur Sanders to solidify that quarterback room. They did just bring in Fields, but you never really know where a team's looking. Tyler McMillan's on the board. Maybe they want to bring in a big-time X-style receiver like him. Well, also, you have to remember who they brought in. Aaron Glenn's a new head coach. He's a defensive guy. And I think he wants to bring in a guy like Jalen Walker. Now, this might seem a little high for him, and that may be true, but he's a beast. You can put him wherever you want on your defense. You can play off the ball as a spot dropper. You can drop him in Tampa too. You can have him be a quarterback spy. You can blitz him off the edge on 3rd downs. I know you might have Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson off the edge already. That's fine. Like, yeah, you might think that the interior needs some help. You can get interior help in the 2nd round. Easily. This draft is very deep at that position. There's an easy chance you can get a good, maybe like a Tyleik Williams in the 2nd round. Like, that's not far-fetched to think that they can do that. Jalen Walker provides so much versatility, and what I really like about him is I really think he's going to fit Aaron Glenn's culture. He needs to reestablish a new culture at the Jets, and I think he did a great job of that by driving Aaron Rodgers out of the building. He did not want to be a part of what Aaron Rodgers was bringing to that organization, and he really doesn't want any of his guys there anymore either. He wants to reset this Jets organization, and a guy like Jalen Walker, who was just a known leader, he passed with flying colors for every interview at the draft combine. Every team loves this guy. He's a high character leader, locker room guy. I think he's a perfect fit for an Aaron Glenn team. He's going to reset the culture, and this is just a really big culture building pick, I think, for the Jets, and I love this. I love this. I think it's so underrated for the Jets here at 7. And at number 8, we have our first trade to announce. Mason Graham's still on the board. The 49ers are going to jump the gun here. But you might think the Panthers, well, maybe they want Mason Graham for themselves, but also you have to think this. Who's going to be available in the second round for the Panthers? And they have a later second round pick, but I still think you can get a guy like Jordan Phillips in the second round. So this is going to be Mason Graham for the 49ers, and they really need to bolster their D-line. It's a great trade-up. I don't know how much it's going to cost for the 49ers to move up. Let's just say it. I'm not going to get into the details. That's not my job. It's just my job to predict this. But Mason Graham, great against the run. He's a stout run defender, and he's a great finesse pass rusher. Outside of that, he's going to bring a high floor to this 49ers team who is still looking to compete for a championship. You have to remember, this is like one of the last years of their window to bring in a guy like Mason Graham. He's a floor raiser for the D-line, and they need that right now so desperately. Great pick here for the 49ers at 8. Pick 9, the Saints. Derek Carr's in with injury. You don't love what you have with Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler? I think this pick makes a lot of sense. Shadur Sanders is just right there on the board for you. He's a good floor-raising quarterback. I think you have the weapons in Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave to make a guy like Shadur Sanders successful. Maybe you go pick up a guy in the second or third round to help him out as a receiver as well. I mean, Shadur Sanders, he may not have the most talented stature as a quarterback prospect, but he's very solid at almost everything. He's not super mobile, but he can move around. He's not very accurate, but he's good at accurate enough. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but he's pretty accurate, right? He is very accurate. And he's also going to be, he may not have the most arm talent ever. He doesn't have a rocket arm. Guess what? Tom Brady didn't have a rocket arm. He made it work. Drew Brees didn't have a rocket arm. He was one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think a guy like Shadur Sanders can really fit into the Saints culture and be a great, maybe not a first-year starter, maybe you still roll with Rattler and then roll Shadur later in on the year. That's totally fine. I don't really care, but you need a quarterback for this Saints team. Derek Carr is not a long-term answer. I don't think Rattler and Haener are either. Shadur Sanders is the pick here at 9. He just falls into their laps. They don't have to trade up. It's not really viewed as a reach because quarterback is the most premium position in the NFL. I don't think drafting a quarterback in the first round is a bad idea almost ever, unless it's Kenny Pickett. But that's besides the point. Pick 10, Chicago. A lot of the O-linemen they might like are off the board. Calvin Banks is still available. Maybe they want a Josh Simmons or like a Tyler Booker, but I think that's all too rich right now for some of those guys. I think there's a really premier player still available here that can really help them out, and that's Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State. Now you might think, well, they have Cole Kmet. Guess what? These guys are different players. You can use both of those players in the same set. You just lose Keenan Allen, you have DJ Moore and Roma Dunze on the outside. You can put Tyler Warren in the slot. You can put Tyler Warren in as the H-back. You can put Tyler Warren in as a wildcat quarterback. This guy could do anything and everything for you. He can block pretty decently. He's not the world's best blocker. That's something he can work on, but he can play inline. He can play in the slot. He can play the H-back. I mean, this guy is a freaking beast. And there's a reason that he got Heisman votes this year. He is a stud at the tight end position, and he's a difference maker for this Bears offense. And a guy like Ben Johnson, I mean, you look at Detroit, they just had a bunch of difference makers on that team. And I think a guy like Tyler Warren can fit the mold for a coach like Ben Johnson and what he wants out of his players. This brings up pick 11, and the Carolina Panthers are back up on the board. I think you really have to look at what they need here. Well, they're missing a lot of things, but one thing that really stands out is the help for Bryce Young. Yes, you have Thielen, Leggett, maybe like what you see at a Jalen Coker. I get that. None of those guys really fit the style of play that Tedderone McMillan has at that receiver spot. This is your true X-style receiver. Go up and get it. He's really fast, athletic, long. I mean, this is just a great pick here for the Panthers. I think he's going to fit in decently well. He may not really lead the league in receiving yards as a rookie. Or, I mean, not like that. He might not lead all rookies in receiving yards. That's totally fine. I don't expect him to. He's going to be in a pretty crowded receiving room in a way, but You have last year's first round pick in Leggett, and you have another year Thielen, Coker, like that's totally okay. But McMillan is going to be your true X-style, go up and get it receiver for the Panthers. They don't have a guy like that. They need a guy like that for Bryce Young to go to, and it's important for his development to get an X-style receiver. You see how many of those types of guys have turned quarterbacks' careers around. Baker Mayfield gets access to Mike Evans. He's a completely different player now. Completely different player. I'm not saying that Terrell McMillan is Mike Evans, but it's a pretty good player comp for him. Anyways, moving on to pick 12. This is going to be another receiver here. I think this is one of the most chalk picks that we know of. Matthew Golden to the Cowboys. Now, this is just really, like, as of late, the smoke has been never more evident. Matthew Golden has really risen up draft boards lately. His combine was great. He's had his great tape. His 2024 was fantastic. He was good in the playoffs. I mean, this guy just doesn't have a lot of bad things about him. He's just a great overall receiver. And the Cowboys, all signs are pointing towards Matthew Golden with the Cowboys. And I think if Terrell McMillan's on the board, I think that they're still going to go with Matthew Golden, regardless of who else is on the board. I think he's their receiver one, and a lot of other guys think the same way about him too. He's a great receiver. I still view McMillan a little higher, but I think Golden's a great second option as a receiver in this class. I think him and CD pair really well together, and Jerry Jones has a great track record as of recent of picking skill position players in the first round. You think of Ezekiel Elliott, you think of CD Lamb. He's been really good at those type of picks, right? So you get over Matthew Golden, it's going to hit again, I think. I really do. And then that brings up the Dolphins at pick 13. Now you have one thing in mind here. Protect Tua, in my opinion, right? You might not like what you have out of Austin Jackson on the right side, and you just lost Teron Armstead. Can you really trust Patrick Paul to protect Tua? I mean, yes, Austin Jackson is protecting his blind side, but at the end of the day, do you really like what you have there? I don't think they do. I think a guy like Josh Simmons could be the OT1 in this class if it wasn't for his injury. I think he tore his patellar tendon. It's an ugly injury. But all signs are pointing towards him being healthy. He's on the come up. He's going to be ready for training camp. All of these things. I think he's going to be a great pick here for the Dolphins. His tape, when he was healthy, was phenomenal this season. It was so good. And I think he has the potential to be a home run, grand slam type pick here for the Dolphins at 13. Not a reach at all, in my opinion. 14. Indianapolis is on the board. You need to get Anthony Richardson some help. This is a make it or break it year. I think a guy like Colston Loveland really helps elevate this offense's floor. You don't really have a guy like this for Anthony Richardson to go to. His closest thing to a safety blanket last year was Josh Downs, right? And obviously, you have to have safety blanket's a pretty thrown around term here for quarterbacks because they have to be able to hit them first. And, well, realistically, Anthony Richardson has been really not great at hitting safety blankets, but a guy like Loveland gives him a much bigger target to do so, and it's going to be, if he can't hit guys like Loveland, then you know he's not the guy. Loveland might be a top 10 player in this class, so this isn't a reach at all in my opinion. Yes, the positional value may not be there, but he is really not your traditional style tight end. He's a lot like Brock Bowers in a way where he's not going to be an inline guy as much, but I'm not saying he's Brock Bowers. He's not that level of prospect, but he's still an elite tight end prospect here. In a great class, maybe you can argue that you can get an Arroyo down the board. I still think Loveland's just the top 10 player in this class. You've got to get him now while you can. He's not going to be anywhere near as good as an Arroyo down the board, in my opinion. This brings up the Falcons at 15. I know Terry Fontenot does not really pick edge rushers that much, but they need it now more than ever. Terry Fontenot, wake up. Micah Williams is your guy. You were second to last in sacks last year. If you're the Falcons organization, you can't just look at that and think, oh, we don't need an edge rusher. You do. You have an aging Matthew Judon. Your interior line's not so great. I don't think Luke Ororo was the best pick of all time, especially when you have guys like Jazad Newton on the board. That was a really bad one, in my opinion, last year for the Falcons, but that's besides the point. But you have a guy like Micah Williams. You hear guys like Mel Kiper say this all the time. He's a big LTPer. He looks the part. He's big. He's long. You can't teach the long arms that Micah Williams has. You can coach him into being a better player. Yes, he may not have had the best tape of all time last season. He's a little injured, though. He wasn't playing 100% the entire year. And when he's healthy, he looks like the best edge rusher in this draft class, potentially. He's got great stuff when he's healthy. He really looks the part, and like I said, long arms wins in the NFL. That is what the key is here with Micah Williams, and he's the pick here at 15 for the Falcons. This brings up the Cardinals at 16, and I really think that this is going to be somewhere along the D-line. And the best one available right now is Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman for Ole Miss. Now, this is really an interesting one because he was a very high prospect. I do this all the time. With Travis Hunter's recruiting class, he was either 1 or 2, depending on where you looked. But either way, he's a freak. Walter Nolan can get after the quarterback like none other in this class. He can really be a Batman on a D-line. He can be the alpha dog on a team's D-line and really get after the quarterback. And interior pass rush has never been more valuable in the NFL right now, and Walter Nolan is a great pick here at 16 for the Cardinals. This brings up the Bengals at 17. Now, there's a lot of different ways that they can go here, but I think there's one player who's falling. There's one really key star player right now that I think is falling in the draft, and the Bengals are going to scoop him up. They need defensive help anywhere they can get, and the best player available by far right now is Jahdae Barron, the defensive back out of Texas. He falls because of his positional value. A lot of teams might view him as a nickel corner, and that really does result in players falling. That's how you see guys like Brian Branch get drafted in the 40s a couple years back, right? He was still a top 10 player in that class, arguably, but he just falls because of positional value. It's just how the league works. I don't know why. A lot of teams operate out of base nickel anyways, so I mean, you think he's going to be almost an every down player regardless. So I don't know how that really works if you're an NFL team. You got to start valuing nickels more because they really are difference makers, and that's what Jahdae Barron is. He doesn't win the best defensive back in college football last season for nothing, right? You see his production, you see his tape. It's all great. Great pick here at 17. That brings the Seahawks at pick 18. Now this is another pick where there's a lot of different ways they can go. I think it's going to be an edge, and I think it's going to be Shamar Stewart. Now, if you wanted to make a defensive lineman off the edge in a lab, that's what Shamar Stewart would look like. This guy tested better than almost any other edge rusher that you've ever seen at the combine. It's the only one problem with him is production. And guess what? We've had players historically that have been not productive in college, but have been great in the NFL with production with NFL coaching. You have to look at Danielle Hunter. You look at guys like Odafe Owe at the Ravens. I mean, those are just two examples that I can think of. Maybe guys like Rashawn Gary. Like, those guys are all great NFL pass rushers that didn't really produce much in college, but had all the traits that showed they could be successful. And that's what Shamar Stewart is. He's a trait freak, athletic freak. He just needs to be coached up. I think Mike McDonald can do that at Seattle. 19, Tampa Bay. This is another time where you really don't know where a team's going to go. A lot of different picks they can make here. I think Jahad Campbell really stands out as the best overall player available. I know that he might not play a quote-unquote valuable position, off-ball linebacker. Who gives a damn? He's a great player. This guy is a freak. You can even rush him off the edge if you want. He was a 5-star edge rushing recruit into Alabama, right? But they moved him off the ball. He's great. He's so quick and fast finding the ball. He may not be a Mike linebacker for you, but right now it's perfect. He can develop alongside a guy like the Levante David, who's going to be wearing that green dot. He can call the signals. He can call the shots. You just give Jahad Campbell his keys, and he's going to get after it and be a great player for you. Here brings up pick 20, and this is another one of those picks where I think this could be the only real chalk pick in this draft aside from Cam Ward, Matthew Golden, and then the other two top 3 guys. I think Omarion Hampton to the Broncos is another one of those picks that is almost all but clear to a lot of people. This seems to be a general consensus in the draft community. He's just the second best running back in this class, in my opinion. I think Traven Henderson is not far behind him, but Hampton's a big, power-thumping guy. He's also got speed for days. He does remind me a lot of what you see out of I want to say great value Jonathan Taylor. That's a pretty good comparison in my opinion. I love what I see about Marion Hampton, and that's a great pick for the Broncos. And you think about it, Sean Payton loves guys in his offense. He's drafted 2 first-round running backs before, Mark Ingram and Reggie Bush. I think those guys worked out pretty well for him, I'm not going to lie. He also likes having a joker in his offense. He loves having players like running backs or tight ends to make a big difference, and that's what Marion Hampton can do. This brings up the Steelers at 21, and I mean, the Steel City, I really think that they're going to go along the lines of the trenches because you look at a guy like Cam Hayward, they're going to go with Kenneth Grant, all right? You do have Cam Hayward, you have Keanu Benton, and of course you have one of the best edge rushing units in the entire league, right? But how much longer is Cam Hayward going to be good? And you also run a 3-4 there in Pittsburgh as well. Kenneth Grant could theoretically be a starter right away for that D-line in one of those 3-tech spots. He can do that for you. He's a freak. This guy had a lot of potential. A lot of it is untapped still, in my opinion. He's still a growing player. He shows a lot of good flashes on tape. He's a big-time power rusher. He can get after the quarterback. He can stop the run decently well. He's a big-time guy to have in there, and I think he'll eat next to Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton, as well as T.J. Watt, Nick Herbig, and Alex Highsmith on that D-line. It's just going to be, you win games in the trenches, and I think that this is just how you dominate if you're the Steelers. You may not have the best offense, and yes, Jackson Dart is an option here, but I just don't know if that's the right option. You got to build in the trenches, and with a lot of other players you might like off the board, I think Kenneth Grant might be one of the better players available right now. That brings up the Chargers at 22, and I think it's going to be back-to-back Michigan guys. It's going to be Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan. Now, I know this might seem late, but Will Johnson has a lot of question marks. Short arms, knee problems, maybe not as big, maybe not as successful in press man. He's just a great instinctual guy, and he's a football guy. He fits the mold of what Jim Harbaugh would want out of a player. He may not be the biggest, the fastest, the tallest, the longest player in the field, but damn it, he's going to make plays regardless of that. And a lot of NFL teams will not draft him because he doesn't fit these measurables and because he might have a bad athletic or injury history, but I don't think Jim Harbaugh really cares about that. He just wants guys that are gamers, guys that are going to go up there and make plays, and that is exactly what Will Johnson is. His 2023 tape, his 2022 tape are both incredible, and even before he got hurt in 2024, he was still really good. I mean, it's just, his draft stock is really taking a dip, and I don't know if he's going to go in the top half of the first round or not. He easily could go top 10, though. I really do think he's a potential candidate to go in the top 10. He's just one of those guys where NFL teams might view him differently than other teams might view him differently. I don't really know where to project this guy, but I think if he gets to the Chargers at 22, I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to pull the trigger on one of his guys from Michigan. He's a great player at 22. This brings up the Packers at 23, and now with a lot of the edges that they might like. You got to remember the prototypical Packers pick. Walter Nolan, Shamar Stewart, Mykel Williams, those are all three players that I think the Packers have very highly graded on their draft board. I think those are three guys that project really well to be elite players in the league. The Packers love to develop their pass rush. I think with those guys off the board, they might look to go in another direction. And you look at their receiver room right now, and it might not be so great. This might be the most unrealistic pick in the entire draft. I get it. I have them going with Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Missouri. Yes, his production was down this year, but also Brady Cook was horrible. His quarterback was not good. Inconsistent throws all season long. His 2023 tape is where you're really going to find the gems. And you look at a guy like Dontavian Wicks, who was awful in 2024, or 2023. But his 2022 tape was fantastic. So they drafted him based off of his tape the year prior in college. They obviously have no problems doing this. They don't really care if a player has a quote-unquote down year. They understand that offenses can change, quarterback play can be bad. They look at the highs in a player, and Luther Burden's highs are higher than a lot of other players that are being drafted in front of him. You, as the Packers, they have a team full of wide receiver 2s and 3s. Luther Burden has the chance to be a wide receiver 1 in this offense, and I really think that he could be the guy that really breaks the mold here. If you're the Packers, I think you need a guy like this in your receiver room. I don't think waiting to the second round or the third round to draft another receiver is really going to solve your problems in this receiver room. I just don't know if that's really going to be the case. With a guy like Luther Burden falling to you at 23, and I think this is really realistic. Like, Luther Burden's draft stock has tanked lately, but I think the Packers really should take a chance on him because they've shown that they don't really care about the previous year's tape. If they have a good year of tape, they might grade them based off of that. And Luther Burden has a great 2023, and they're going to be drafting him off of that tape. And we have a trade to announce. You have to understand who's on the board still, and the Chiefs really need offensive line, and the Vikings really need more picks. There's a couple of good O-linemen still available, and the Chiefs are going to leapfrog a couple of teams, like especially the Texans, who really need an offensive tackle. They're going to leapfrog the Texans at 25, jump up to 24. The Vikings are going to accumulate a couple more picks in this year's draft in return for that, because you have to remember the Vikings only have 4 total picks this year. They are a very, very big trade-back candidate this year, and I have them doing just that in this year's draft. And with that, the Chiefs are on the clock. I think with who's available right now, I mean, Kelvin Banks has just dropped down the board. He's fallen all the way down to 24. This is a guy who can go top 10 without a problem, and that's not even really a bad thing. He would go top 10, and I wouldn't bat an eye. Kelvin Banks is just that dude, and the Chiefs getting him is really scary because this is a really good tackle prospect. Outside of, like, say, the Georgia game, maybe the Ohio State game, he wasn't so great in those games, but Guess what? A lot of tackles struggle against NFL level talent like that, alright? It's just what happens. Banks is still a top tier tackle prospect. He could maybe play guard, but I think the Chiefs are going to be drafting him to play tackle. So it's a great pick for the Chiefs. And now with him off the board, the Texans might look to go somewhere else on the O-line. And I think this could be a good spot for a guy like Tyler Booker to go. I mean, you want to build through the trenches if you're the Texans here, and you like what you saw out of Joe Mixon last year. If you're the Texans, if you want to maximize that, Tyler Booker is an absolute mauler in the run game. He's one of the best run blockers in this class. He's not a tackle. He is a true pure guard prospect. He is nothing but that, okay? But he's going to be a great pick here for the Texans. You got to protect Stroud, and you got to boost that run game. I think that they're going to love this guy here in Houston. This brings up the Rams at 26, and they're going to pick up another one of these falling stars that are just falling due to positional value. This pick's going to be Malachi Starks, the defensive back out of Georgia. He can play safety, he can play over the top, he can play in the box, he can play in the nickel. There's a lot of different things you can do with him. He's got a great character too. One thing about Malachi Starks is he is interviewed very well. He's a great character. He's a locker room leader. Nothing but good things you'll hear from him about at Georgia. Just a great pick overall here for the Rams. I love it. I just love it. He's going to be a big-time football guy. You need playmakers on this team. Like the Rams, they're probably going to be another playoff contender again this season, I think. You bring in Devontae Adams. You have Puka Nacua still. Their offense is still going to be great. I have no worries with their offense right now. The defense is the only problem, and I think bringing in a guy like Malachi Starks to bolster that secondary is going to be a big-time help for a team like the Rams. This brings up the Ravens at 27, and this is the most Ravens thing to do. They're going to look at who's the highest player available on their board, and they're going to draft them. And I think that one of the best guys available right now is Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. Not only is he a great player available, he also fills a need. The Ravens' pass rushing is aging. You have guys like Odafe Oweh who are still on the team, right? But how much more production are you going to get out of a guy like Kyle Van Noy, right? You have to look at these things. Mike Green is a production freak. He may not have all the traits, but guess what? He still was insane. All right, you look at his Senior Bowl tape. You look at his tape against Ohio State. He was phenomenal in both of those. He dominated both of those things. He can produce against high-level talent. He's not just a Conference USA or Sun Belt Conference merchant. All right, like a lot of people break him out to be. That's not who Mike Green is. He's still a great player. He may not be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, with the longest arms, but he's still a technique machine. He can get to the quarterback. He just knows. He has the moves for days. He can get after the quarterback. He's a great pick here for the Ravens. Lions at 28. Similarly to the Ravens, they're another one of those teams that just likes to draft good football players, right? They're going to go with a guy off the other side of the edge, Donovan Ezaraku out of Boston College. Another production freak. Finished just behind Mike Green in total sacks, and he actually led college football in sacks per game. So he is a production freak. Another one of those guys who was getting a lot of first-round hype. He wasn't really a big first-round guy heading into the draft process. As we get further and further into April, closer towards the draft, more and more teams seem to like this guy. Maybe he falls a little bit because he doesn't have the projectable traits that NFL teams covet. He may not have the world's highest ceiling, but the Lions don't really care about traits or like long arms and stuff like that. The Lions are a team that look at production and they value that more than anything else. If you are successful on tape, that's all they really seem to care about. That's why Donovan Ezaraku is a great pick here for the Lions. He fits them really well. You need a fill on the other side across from Aiden Hutchinson, and he might not be back 100% ready to go right away. You might not want to rush Hutchinson into it. He's really coming off a major injury, and Ezaraku is just a great pick to relieve some of the stress off Aiden Hutchinson. He's just a good fit here for the Lions. 29, Washington. This is another interesting spot here because they're a team that really filled in a lot of their needs in free agency a couple years ago. They're bringing back Bobby Wagner. They might not have the world's best roster, but they have good players all across the board. That's why I think bringing in a guy like Nick Eamon-Warrior, just to be a difference maker on that defense, right? You can throw him anywhere other than like boundary corner, and he's going to be a great player. He can play over the top. He can play strong safety. He can play Sam. He can play Will. He could play in the nickel. Like, this is a guy you can maybe even blitz him off the edge. He's just that athletic and that instinctual. I think he's too tall, too fast to not be a first-round pick. You don't find stuff like this in the second round of the draft. But players like Nick Eamon-Warrior, you might think, oh, he's just athletic. No. He has the skills, he has the ball skills, he has the natural football talent outside of just the athleticism. I think he is a true first-round talent and a true difference maker for a team like the Washington Commanders, who are looking to maybe get back into an NFC Championship and compete for a Super Bowl this season. This brings up the Buffalo Bills at 30, and after a pretty disappointing end of last season, I think that they really need to bolster up their secondary, and Maxwell Harrison is available. This is the fastest DB in the draft. He ran a 4.28 at the combine. Now, obviously, your combine speed doesn't tell everything about you, but Harrison having that speed to keep up with your wide receiver ones like Tyreek Hills of the world, there's Xavier Worthy's, like those guys are all going to be in the AFC. Who knows whose division that Hill's going to be in? But right now, he's in their division. So you bring in a guy like Harrison, you might not like what you have in the secondary. And this is really just a good pick to help bolster your secondary at Buffalo. Like, you have so many good quarterbacks you have to worry about in the AFC. I think you can never have too many corners because those teams are all loaded with good quarterbacks and good receivers. You need to combat that somehow, and Harrison is a good start to combat that for the Bills. At 31, this is going to go to Minnesota after the trade with Kansas City. They trade back and fill a need with Gray Zabel. The Vikings have great tackles in Brian O'Neill and in Christian Darrisaw, but their interior of the offensive line is not so great. Gray Zabel really filled the need and is going to help. You need to help out J.J. McCarthy as much as you can. He's going to be a first-year starter in all likelihood. I don't know who else they throw out there. I really think that Gray Zabel is going to help protect your future franchise quarterback, you would hope. And I think Gray Zabel is just a great floor raiser for this offensive line. He's not really going to wow you in any way. This is a guy who still did really well at the Senior Bowl, really well in his one-on-one reps. He's not going to be a tackle. That's what he played at North Dakota State. He projects as a guard. His arms are short as all hell. He is not a tackle, but he's going to be a great guard or center prospect even. He reminds me a lot of like a Graham Barton almost. Not the player, but like the positional flexibility that he has. And that's just the pick here from Minnesota. It's a good floor raiser. You're looking to compete again maybe, and I think that this is a really good pick. And that brings us to the last pick, which, whoa, we have a trade for the last pick in the NFL draft. Now, one thing you have to note is teams who draft a player in the first round get a 5th-year option on that player. All rookie contracts are 4 years long, but if you get them in the first round, you can extend them for one more season of control. That's why I think a team like the Raiders, who is in desperate need of a running back, would want to trade back into the first round. And with this pick, they will be picking a running back, and that running back will be TreVeyon Henderson out of Ohio State. You look at this guy, absolutely dominated in the college football playoff. He was a great player for Ohio State. I really do think that he's not too far behind Omarion Hampton as the 3rd best running back in this class, and a lot of guys might even have him as the 2nd best running back in this class. I watched TreVeyon Henderson with John Gruden in the FFCA. I know that doesn't tell everything about a player, but he's just a football guy. This guy lives and breathes football. He is just an animal. He loves football more than anything else. It's like his first love. TreVeyon Henderson is just a baller. He has 3-down potential really as a running back. I mean, right now, out of the gate, right away, he might just be like more of a 3rd-down guy, but I really think he has the bruising ability and the longevity. Like, this guy's almost never been hurt in his entire career. His longevity, his durability, his stamina is all great. I think he's just a fantastic prospect here for the Raiders here at 32, who trade back up to get that extra year of control on TreVeyon Henderson. And they're also a team that's in desperate need of a running back. You gotta remember, Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. Unless he's on the 1-yard line in the Super Bowl, that's a different story. But this is a good pick here for the Raiders, and that is going to wrap up this mock draft. A lot of crazy things happened in this one. I know there's a lot of players who may have gone to places you didn't expect them to. That's just how it's going to go regardless. Like I said, I might have gotten only one of these correct, but I don't really care, alright? That's not my business because I know that I'm going to be wrong. I'm content with being wrong. I'm just trying my best to be as correct as I might possibly be because I'm very aware that these NFL teams vary in where they're going to pick these players. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the mock draft, and I really did enjoy making this. But we have some notable day one snubs to go over first. James Pierce Jr. is going to fall through the characteristic issues. A lot of that's really come up recently. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick because of that. He might be a top 20 talent in this draft, but a character thing like that could push him way down teams' boards and into the back end of the 2nd round maybe. A guy like Derek Harmon, great first-round talent. He's just falling due to injury concerns that's come up very recently. That's very concerning, especially when it comes up so close to the draft. A guy like Egbuka falls maybe because the team doesn't need a receiver. I think Egbuka is a clear first-round talent in my eyes. He just falls due to the positional need overall. Like a lot of the teams that are picking at the back end of the first round may not be super worried about their receiving core, so they don't go and get a guy like Emeka Egbuka. A guy like Josh Connolly, maybe he's a fringe first rounder as it is. Same with Nick Gordon and Trey Amos, but a lot of those guys are very notable players who can very easily go in the top 20 of the draft. I wouldn't be shocked if those guys went there. They're all good prospects, but those are just some of the guys that may have been snubbed from day one. But they're definitely going to be second-round picks. Almost guaranteed they're going to go in the second round, except for James Pierce. Guys like that, you never really know where they can go, because if every team doesn't like that he has a character issue, he could slide to day 2, day 3, for all I know. I don't think that happens. He's way too talented for that to happen, but maybe a team like the Eagles who trade back, they get him. I mean, that just sounds like the most Eagles thing to do, to trade back into the second round and still get a guy like James Pierce. But that's besides the point. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I loved making this video, and yeah, that's the mock draft.